Diffusion and osmosis.
Diffusion. Diffusion is the first type of active transport that we're going to talk about. And diffusion is the random movement of particles in gas or liquid from an area of high concentration to low concentration. Particles move randomly in all directions, but if there's an uneven distribution of particles in solution, then over time the particles naturally spread out and become evenly distributed. A large drop of blue dye was dropped into a container of water, and after a couple of seconds it looked like this. And here you can see some areas of high concentration, and then also some areas that are not quite as concentrated. These are areas of low concentration. So over time, these particles here are naturally going to spread out and become evenly distributed throughout this water. If you spray a strong perfume in one corner of the classroom, it will have a strong smell in that corner, but students on the other side of the classroom won't be able to smell it. Over time, the perfume molecules will diffuse to the rest of the classroom. There is now more room for the same number of particles, so each particle has more places it can be. This is another way of saying that the entropy of the perfume room system has increased. No energy is required for this to occur.
So here we have a membrane layer. Remember, membranes often act as the barrier between the areas of high and low concentrations in a solute. Solute molecules diffuse in all directions, but the net movement is from the areas of the highest concentration to the areas of the low concentration. So molecules that are allowed to cross a membrane will diffuse until their concentration is at equilibrium, equal on both sides of the membrane. So let's take a look here. Here you have a high concentration of a molecule that is allowed to pass through this cell membrane. And over time, some of those molecules begin to come and pass through the cell membrane. And eventually you will find that you have an equal amount on both sides, and that is referring to this equilibrium. So any molecule that's allowed to cross this membrane will diffuse until their concentration is at equilibrium.
O2 and CO2 molecules are small enough to cross the lipid bilayer membrane by diffusion. The green dots here and all around here and inside the membrane here represent O2 molecules. No energy is required to move them from the outside to the inside of the membrane, as the O2 concentration is greater here on the outside than it is on the outside. The molecules follow the concentration gradient from high to low. And so, because there's a higher concentration of O2 molecules here on the outside, some will diffuse to the inside of the membrane. Concentration gradients of different solutes are independent of each other. Each type of molecule moves along its own concentration gradient. Some may diffuse into the cell, others may diffuse out. Diffusion is a spontaneous process, and each type of molecule diffuses at its own rate. So osmosis is the third type of passive transport that we're going to talk about. And osmosis is the net diffusion or flow of water molecules through a semi-permeable membrane into an area of higher solute concentration. This difference in concentration is called the concentration gradient. The net flow of water molecules will go to zero when the solute concentration is the same on both sides of the membrane. Even though the net flow is in one direction or the other or zero, individual molecules of water will continue to move in both directions. Osmosis is a type of passive transport. It requires no energy. This might be a little confusing. Why are we talking about the movement of water based on the concentration of the solute. Why not just talk about the solute moving through the membrane? Because of the semi-permeable membrane. This membrane does not allow the passage of the solute. The water molecules diffuse through the membrane. The solute molecules do not. Osmosis applies to the movement of a solvent, water, based on the concentration of the solute.